Hi there guys, welcome to the third video on the Android tutorial series. My name is Jamie and I'm going to be running you through again on the Android stuff. So, where were we on the last tutorial? Basically, we'd made an application, we'd spoke a little bit about the Android manifest, and we looked through some of the Java. In this episode, what we're going to be looking at is some of the things that we can do with the UI. In particular, what we're going to aim for is having a edit text that's editable by the user. They'll enter a string, they'll press a button, and then we'll set a text view based on the input that they've provided. So it might sound complicated, but we're going to crack on with this, and we're going to start with the layout. So looking at our IDE again, looking at Android Studio, what we're going to do is we're going to first of all get rid of this, whatever that was, and we're going to look at the layout. So the activity main is the one that we're going to be working with in this tutorial. So what we are going to add is we're going to jump on here and add in a edit text. So on the left hand here we will add a plain text field, so you can see it comes in. So don't worry too much about the layout at the moment, it's not that important how you lay it out. Basically it's going to be a little bit hit and miss to begin with, so we'll just drag this on, resize it to what we think we want, and then we're going to have a button which will be up in the widgets. So now we drag our button on, we can drag that there, and we'll drag our text view that's already on here down onto here. We'll resize that a little bit. It's not going to take the extra sizing there because of the font. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll set the text size to 22 DIP. So that's raised that up a little bit there. And then we should be looking at basically working with these. So the best thing that we can do now is name these properly, and basically if you end up having loads and loads of widgets and views and things like that that are just named silly things like edit text 1, edit text 2, it makes your app harder to look at. Not only for yourself, you'll find that you'll end up wasting more time switching between views to see what things are called, but also if you end up having to pass the project on later down the line, it's going to be a pain in the ass for anyone that's trying to maintain your project. So what we're going to do is we're going to name these properly. So we'll name this one here, we're going to name user input, and then we'll put this one as output text, and this one will be called submit. Okay, so now what we have on our layout, as we can see here, is we have a text view, an edit text, and a button. So what we now need to do is we need to jump to the Java and implement some of the actions or the implementation of these objects. So the first thing that we need to do when we have a view is basically we have a view that's been inflated on our onCreate and it's active in the activity. So what we need to be able to do is we need to assign functionality to these views. Now we do that by finding the view first of all, and then we can attach functionality to it. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to make some declarations here in the class. We're going to add a few fields here. So we're going to have a text view, and this one's going to be called what do we say? We said output. So I have a text view, and yeah, just press Alt Enter there, and it'll bring in all the imports that you need for that. Then we'll have an edit text, which is the user input. Then we'll have a button, which is called submit. Okay, so what we're going to do is, again, we need to import these. Okay. Not too sure why that's not picked up. Okay, so sometimes it can be a little bit fiddly. I am still myself getting used to Android Studio, so Eclipse was a little bit easier in that sense. But anyway, we'll move on. So the first thing that we need to do is now assign our active UI elements to these variables that we have up there. So what we're going to do is we're going to set them one by one. So the first one that we're going to do is output equals, and then we need to cast it to a text view, and then we're going to use the method here, find view by ID. Now it's looking for an integer, but the integer is r dot, and then we need to look at the layout, the ID dot, and then we can basically, now that we've got sensible naming on our UI elements, we can just look at them like this. So the first thing that we want is user input, and as you can see there, we've picked it up already. So that's our output set. Then we're going to look at the user input, which is the edit text. Again, we're going to need to cast it. So we cast that to an edit text, and we do find view by ID, r.id. User input. And I've just picked up a mistake here, so I apologize. The output is output text. Our final element that we're going to add is the button. So we've got submit equals button, find view by ID, r.id.submit. And we leave that like that. Okay, so now what we have is 3 active UI elements, and we have them assigned to the variables that we have up here. So we don't actually need to do anything at the moment except from implement our submit button. So what we're going to do is we're going to do submit dot set on click listener, and then we're going to do new view on click, like that. So basically Android Studio now automatically fills in a lot of the things that you need for itself. So we can see that set on click listener, if it would hover properly, it requires an on click listener. Now the on click listener, because the button is extended from a view, we have a view.onClick listener. Basically all this is going to do is say that once the button's clicked, this public void, the onClick, is going to handle the functionality for the button. Now if we didn't set an onClick listener, all that would happen is the button would do nothing. It would just simply it would be clickable, but nothing would happen when they click it. So what we're going to do is we're going to implement our functionality here. So we're going to do a little bit of validation. So this is going to be a little bit of Java just to sort of enforce some of the things that we'll be looking at. So what we need to do first is check that the input that they've given isn't equal to 0. So we're going to do, first of all, we're going to do, we'll have a string, and it will be called, I don't know, we'll have it as input, and user input dot get text. And then we'll do toString. Okay, so what we've got there is the input that they've got from the text box. Now the first thing that we want to check is input.length is not equal to 0. Okay, so once we know that the input isn't equal to 0, we can then do our logic, because we don't really want to change the text view if it's 0, because all it's going to do is change the text view to nothing. So once we've checked that the user input is greater than 0, what we can do is set the text view. So what we do is, for this, we do the output dot set text, and then all we need to do is do input. Okay, so we've got our output dot set text set to input. Now what we'll do is we'll run that and we'll see what happens. So like we did before, we'll just press the play button and we'll wait 5 years while Android Studio decides it's going to compile. Okay, and we pick our running device. As you can see, the emulator's changing. Okay, so now we have our information here. We actually forgot to set the text for the button, so it looks a little bit stupid at the moment. But either way, what we're going to do is press the button. Nothing happens. Then we're going to say hello, press the button, and it sets the text view up here to nothing. What we can do is, as well, we can check. There is going to be one case that we haven't checked for. If we do a space, press OK, technically that's 1 character, so the length is greater than 0. So on your own, it's worth putting in some validation to check whether the string is empty. That's a good little task to try out and to extend on the tutorial. So what we've done is we've added a text view, we've added an editable text, and it got there in the end, and we've added a button, and we've added functionality to that button so that when we press it, we can change the text view that's up at the top there to whatever the input is. So again, just to show it, we've got some functionality there. I hope this has been helpful to you. In our next tutorial, we'll look at some more advanced things with the UI, adding some navigation elements and other things like that. This has been close to 10 minutes. I hope I haven't bored you, and I hope that you join me again for the next tutorial. Thanks so much for watching. As usual, if you want to get me on Twitter, you can do that at JJBrunton, or you can add me on Google Plus or anything like that. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and as usual, the source code will be in the description. Have a great one.